Hello there everyone, and welcome back to the channel. My name is Botox Games, and today we're going to be trying to predict the exact launch lineup for the Nintendo Switch 2. Not just first party, but also third party games that I think we will see on a launch day for Nintendo's next console. We have about 2 months to wait until the April Nintendo Direct, so I wanted to get ahead of it and go ahead and do my launch lineup prediction video. I've seen a lot of other people doing their prediction videos, so I thought now was a good time. Of course, if you are new here and you enjoy Nintendo Switch 2 speculation, theories, discussion, I would appreciate you subscribing, but let's get into it. And I guess I should say now, I'm pretty confident in most of these games coming over. The issue really is figuring out if they're going to be launch titles or not. I tried to strike a balance of different genres for launch. I mean, you look back at certain console launches, you look at the PS4 having a ton of FPS games, right? Battlefield 4, Call of Duty Ghosts, and the new Killzone. I feel like that's not going to happen here, but I just know there are so many third-party devs waiting to flood their games onto the console. We've heard so many rumors from Nate the Hates and a couple other people that, Ubisoft, for example, has, I think, more than 12 ports coming over. Xbox is one that will certainly be flooding a lot of their games onto the Switch 2 this year. So determining what actually makes sense for launch in terms of third-party stuff is a little bit harder than just saying, yeah, that makes sense to come over. Because I think every game we talk about in today's video will come to the Switch 2. It's really just a matter of when. So I tried to strike a good balance. I didn't go, in my opinion, overboard with how many games I have listed here. I have about, I think, 9 or 10, maybe 11 or so games listed that I think will be launch titles for this console. And we'll start off with the actual launch dates. If you missed it, I posted a video a couple of days ago. I guess I'll spoil that video for you right now, but if you want to watch that and kind of see how I came to this conclusion, I think the Switch 2 will release on May 22nd. Long story short, that is the exact amount of time between the January 2017 presentation for the Switch 1 and March 3rd when the console released. That's the same amount of time as that was for April 2nd when we're getting this big Nintendo Switch 2 Nintendo Direct and then launch. So May 22nd, I think it's 50 days exactly after. I think we're looking at a late May launch for this console. Is June a little bit more realistic? Maybe, but I'm going to be optimistic and say late May. And alongside it, I have definitely flip-flopped a lot on this in the past, especially last year. I didn't think Prime 4 would be a launch title at all, but I do think we're going to see 3 launch titles from Nintendo, 3 first-party games and Nintendo-published games on the Switch 2 at launch. That might be a lot, and maybe some of you in the comments can talk me down from this idea, but I think when you look back to the Switch launch lineup and how light it was light because Nintendo was scrambling after the Wii U, after the failure of the Wii U. They could not afford, let's say, ARMS or even Mario Rabbids from Ubisoft. Let's say these games were done. They couldn't afford to put them at launch because they needed them afterwards so they could hit that 1 game per month cadence. I think Nintendo is so stocked up on games right now that they're just sitting on that, honestly, I think they could get away with doing 3 games at launch to kind of hit different focus points of their community. I think they can afford to do 3 at launch and still have a monthly release cadence after. So from Nintendo, we'll start with the obvious one. The first game we saw running on a Nintendo Switch 2, Mario Kart 9. A few months ago, I would not have predicted Mario Kart 9 as a launch title. I don't believe Mario Kart has ever been a launch title, and it's certainly something new for Nintendo to do that. I really appreciate the confidence in that, though, because Mario Kart 8 Deluxe is by far the best-selling Switch game. I thought they would save Mario Kart for closer to holiday, maybe even spring next year, and have 3D Mario this holiday, but it looks like Mario Kart 9 will be the launch title. I know there's still some contention in that, but you come off of Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, your best-selling game on Switch, it's a console seller, just come out the gate swinging with that thing, and that'll likely be the best-selling Switch 2 game. They showed their best-selling Switch 2 game in the reveal trailer. They do not want this thing to fail. So I think Mario Kart 9, I know some people are still saying oh, maybe it's a month or 2 after launch. I don't think they would have shown it in that trailer if it was not the launch title, or at least one of the major launch titles. But I think when you look at how they revealed it, and when you look back to the Switch trailer in 2016, I think it's pretty clear that Mario Kart will be there on a release day. Because when you look at that 2016 trailer, it teased, I think, 5 or 6 games. The first game you saw was Breath of the Wild, and that was the launch title. So I think we can look at Mario Kart 9 being the first game we saw on this console as near confirmation, in my opinion, that Mario Kart 9 will be there on a release day. I also think we will see some sort of EPD4 quirky casual game. They always have one of these, going back at least to the Wii with Wii Sports, then Nintendo Land on Wii U, and then 1-2 Switch in 2017 for the Switch. we're gonna get something like that. The trailer teases some sort of weird mouse control method for the new Joy-Con. There's also been rumors about that. There's this new optical sensor on the inside, so you will be able to control your Joy-Con or use them like mice, sliding them around on a table. There's gonna be a game that really demonstrates that, and I think whatever EPD4 is cooking up will be that thing. Now, could that be the Switch Online playtest? Maybe. I think it's possible that is maybe a Switch 2 thing, maybe it's cross-gen, I'm not sure, but that's almost certainly EPD4 as well, and I think having a mouse in that game would certainly benefit a lot of like the creation aspect, but I think you want something more gimmicky. You want something like a 1-2 Switch that really shows off what the new Joy-Con can do. So I think we'll get some sort of party game. I know some people are throwing around WarioWare, and I do think WarioWare will definitely utilize the new MouseCon eventually, a couple years down the line, but I think it'll just be a new IP. You want to have some fresh blood in your launch lineup, and it'll be something that, 1-2 Switch sold 3 million, 4 million copies, I believe. So this will be a massive seller pretty much no matter what it is, because it will be a launch title. And then, yeah, I referenced it earlier. I know people think there will just be the 2. Nintendo normally has their 2. But I think when you look at how long we've waited for the Switch 2 and how many of the developers are ready to go, or at least based on past dev timelines, should be ready to go, I think there's a good chance, even with Mario Kart 9, even with EPD4 being there, almost certainly, I think Metroid Prime 4 could still be a launch title for this console, and I don't think Mario Kart would step on Metroid Prime's toes. Maybe a little bit, but I think the benefit of having that game be a launch title outweighs the benefit of it releasing a month or two later as a cross-gen game. Of course, I got a comment last time. Yes, Metroid Prime 4 will absolutely still launch on the Switch 1, but I do think there will be a Switch 2 version. I think Mario Kart being a big multiplayer game, even if there is this new robust single player we're all dreaming of, people still view Mario Kart inherently as a multiplayer thing. It will likely have a big online focus, so that's your big multiplayer, you're putting hundreds and hundreds of hours into this game, launch title. The EPD4 party game, or whatever it is your local multiplayer game. That's not going to have online. That's something you have when you're drinking with friends, or you're, visiting the family for holidays. Like, that's what the MouseCon game will be. And then Metroid Prime 4 is your premier single-player title, and potentially could be the critical darling of launch. It could be for the more hardcore people that don't necessarily play Mario Kart. Maybe they've played 8 Mario Karts before this. Maybe they don't really care that much. Obviously, Mario Kart is going to sell more than Metroid Prime, but I think Metroid Prime 4, in terms of like critic response and just hype in general, having that at launch, if it is that good, if it is like a 9.5 out of 10 on Metacritic, having something like that at launch is important to tell people, like, listen, not only are you getting the more casual Nintendo software, like your Mario Kart, like your EPD4 MouseCon game, we also still have single-player stuff, we also still have some mature games, and I think Metroid Prime 4 really is the perfect fit for that. So let me know what you think of that in the comments down below. I know that's definitely a difference of opinion for a lot of people, where Nintendo normally does only have that one major game and then their one more small casual game. But I just feel like Mario Kart accompanied by a single player thing would be so powerful. That is a powerful duo, and then you add the casual EPD4 game as your trio. I think that is a perfect launch lineup from a first party perspective. And like I said, I really don't think that Mario Kart 9 would hinder the sales of Prime 4 really at all, because they are just such different games. And like I said, I think with how long we've waited for the Switch 2 and how many of Nintendo's developers are probably waiting, right, or at the very least they're nearing completion on a lot of their games that we have never even heard of, they can still have Mario Kart and Metroid Prime 4 and this EPD4 game, and then still hit a monthly cadence afterwards. In 2017, they couldn't do that. They couldn't afford to put ARMS or Splatoon 2 at launch because they wanted to hit one per month. But if they moved any of those other games to launch, they would have had to have had an empty month. I mean, we saw that in 2018 where most of it was Wii U ports. I guess they could have slotted another Wii U port in 2017, but then 2018 would have had issues. So I think they're ready, and I think they have enough in the cannon for it to be a trio of first-party launch games. And it's not like we haven't seen that before. Not to that scale, I would say. The Wii U had New Super U and Nintendo Land, but it also had a bunch of other stuff published by Nintendo, like Ninja Gaiden 3, shout out. Sing Party, Zombie U was a third-party exclusive, but Nintendo did publish it. So there have been Nintendo consoles in the past with more than just the two. Even the 3DS had, Pilot Wings Resort and Nintendogs and Steel Diver. Now, none of those games are that good, but the point is, it doesn't just have to be two games, But with the first party side of things out of the way, let's talk about third party. And this is where it gets I would say basically impossible to accurately predict what will actually be there on release day. We can base some things off of rumors, but really, I'm just going based on vibes. Based on vibes and based on a couple of other things, these are the games that I think we will see on launch for this console. I tried to have a good variety. I don't want to see an oversaturation of, like, let's say FPS games on launch day, or even fighting games or racing games. Like, I want to, like, have one of each, man. You don't want to go crazy. Xbox should not come out the gate with a bunch of their multiplayer games. Same thing with Activision or Capcom with all the Resident Evil games, or Square Enix with a bunch of JRPGs. Like, it's too much. You can have like one of each thing, and I think that's about it. So first up, I think that Resident Evil 4 Remake from Capcom will be a launch title. I think Capcom is going to put all of their recent Resident Evil games natively on Switch 2. And the reason I say 4 specifically is that all of the other modern Resident Evil games from the PS4 generation, you know, you look at 7, you look at 8, 2 Remake, 3 Remake, all of those ended up getting cloud versions on Switch 2. Resident Evil 4 Remake is the only one that didn't, and I find that really weird. So I think that Resident Evil 4 Remake will be there day one, and that'll be your at least one of your major Capcom games on release day. I also think it's possible that Street Fighter 6 ends up there as well. However, I feel like you save Street Fighter 6 for later, because if we're trying to like not have too much of the same, genre overlap, I think Tekken 8 kind of makes more sense for launch. We have not had a mainline Tekken game on a Nintendo platform ever, right? We've had Tekken Tag 2 on Wii U, we had Tekken 3D Prime on 3DS, but Tekken 8, I could not imagine isn't coming to the Switch 2. Of course, there's a character in Smash Bros, right? So I think Tekken 8, it's a more recent fighting game as well. That is when you get there on day one, and then maybe Street Fighter that comes out a few months later. But give the spotlight, the fighting game spotlight to Tekken 8 on release day, and that way you have a Bandai Namco game as well. I guess on that note, Sparking Zero could also be here. Sparking Zero is definitely going to come to Switch 2. The Dragon Ball games do so well on Nintendo platform, so maybe Sparking Zero could be a launch title as well. It doesn't really have much overlap, I would say, with Tekken 8 because it's an anime fighting game. That's a whole different like subgenre. But I think Sparking Zero, maybe you save that for the holiday. Maybe you save that for like a year one anniversary kind of complete edition with all the DLC that's out at that point anyway. Maybe Sparking Zero you save. So yeah, Tekken 8 will be your big fighting game. Xbox is going to show up big on the Switch 2. I think that is fairly obvious based on how much they're supporting PlayStation right now. And even on the Switch, we got Grounded, we got Pentiment, and that's really all the Switch could handle of their current lineup of games. But one of the games they put on PS5 in 2024 was actually topping the charts for a long time, and I think this will be a launch title because of that. I think out of all of Xbox's first-party lineup, this game makes the most sense to have on as many platforms as possible, as early as possible, and I think Sea of Thieves will be on Switch 2 on day one. Out of every Microsoft game, I think Sea of Thieves makes the most sense. It's done super well on Xbox and PC over the past half decade. It did super well on PS5 when it released there last year. I think Sea of Thieves will absolutely tear up on the Switch 2, and that's a great launch title as well, like a nice live service game, if you will. I don't have too many multiplayer focus games on here. Obviously, Mario Kart 9 is one. We'll talk about one more later, but Sea of Thieves, I think, in terms of like the Xbox representation, there's talk of Halo Master Chief Collection. I think you save that. I think it's too soon either way, because I think if we're talking about Halo MCC coming over to Switch 2 and PS5, you save that for holiday. That's like a big holiday thing, but also maybe you want to avoid the new Call of Duty. It's funny because all of these things are Xbox properties now, so they don't want to cannibalize their own sales with Call of Duty, but I think Halo you save. So Sea of Thieves will be the big Xbox thing. Although another game from an Xbox publisher, being Bethesda, that I do think will be there on launch day, just a week after its proper release on PlayStation 5 and Series S and X, is Doom: The Dark Ages. Doom has a very long history with Nintendo. It's one of the few franchises that really has never skipped Nintendo aside from Doom 3. You look back to the SNES, Doom is there. N64, Doom is there. They skipped Nintendo for a little bit there, right? But even then, you still had like Doom on GBA. I don't think there was ever a Doom game on DS, but coming back on the Switch, we had Doom 2016 and Doom Eternal. Those got miraculous ports by, I believe it was Panic Button or Big Red Button. One of these studios, I think it's Panic Button. Big Red Button. They made Sonic Boom, so I don't think it was them. But Doom: The Dark Ages just got a release date for May 15th on the other platforms. This is a week later. I think Doom, this doesn't really overlap with anything, right? It's a really serious, hardcore FPS. I guess you could maybe say it overlaps with Metroid Prime 4 because it is a single-player focused game, but I don't think it'll really hurt. I don't think they'll hurt each other, especially since Doom is coming out the week before on other platforms. So the people that are diehard Doom fans will probably pick it up on Xbox or PlayStation or PC. So I think Doom we see there very, very early on, as well as Metaphor ReFantazio. This is our JRPG pick for the video. I know some people will look at this and be like, well, if you're not trying to have genre overlap, what about Final Fantasy VII Remake? I think Square Enix is going to have a pop later in the year where we see Remake, maybe we see Rebirth, we see, I mean, maybe Final Fantasy IX could be here as a launch title, but I think if we're talking about old stuff, and I think Metaphor ReFantazio is likelier to come sooner. I guess maybe you could swap this for Persona 3 Reload. I'm just choosing Metaphor because I like Metaphor more than Persona, but I think one of the two, right? I think Atlas will have one of these two games there on release day, Persona 3 Reload or Metaphor ReFantazio. Certainly not both because they would definitely cannibalize each other. And I was thinking about adding a Yakuza game here as well, which is also by Sega. I just feel like if you have an Atlas game, you have your Metaphor or Persona, it feels like a mistake to put Infinite Wealth or even Yakuza 7 on here that early. I guess you could maybe see like a Dragon Pirate Yakuza. That's coming out in February on other platforms. That is a totally different kind of game. It's a beat 'em up. Maybe you could see that on launch day, but I feel like they need to start from Like a Dragon, so Yakuza 7, if they're going to do that, right? You can do the Kiryu Saga separately. You can have your Yakuza 0 through 6 ports whenever, but if they're going to do anything post Kiryu, starring Ishiban, of course, Pirate Yakuza starring Majima, I feel like you start with Like a Dragon and then work your way up through Infinite Wealth and then Pirate Yakuza. So I think that'll happen this year. I just don't know if launch is the right time for it. Ubisoft is another massive player. We've heard a lot of rumors about Ubisoft showing up in a big way on Switch 2. They're actually one of the few major publishers that have actually tweeted about the Switch 2, saying like, we love this console, or oh, we're in love, with just like a picture of the Switch 2 attached. So I don't know, like, what exactly will be there on launch day. The rumor right now, I think, from Nate the Hate is Assassin's Creed Mirage. I think that's a boring pick, but it makes sense. Shadows is rumored to come later. That makes sense. So AC Mirage will be there, but Ubisoft is known for kind of supporting Nintendo very early on, so I don't think it'll just be Mirage. I just don't know what else you really have at launch for this thing. Maybe you see Rainbow Six Siege as an early title, right? More of a tactical FPS, doesn't overlap with Doom or Metroid Prime, obviously. Maybe you see something like an older Far Cry game come over. I think you save those, though. The issue with Ubisoft is right now, they don't have a lot of multiplayer stuff going, I feel like, that is, like, actually, you know, loved. I think Division is rumored. I don't think you do that at launch. I mean, maybe you do. I just don't think people will be playing the Division 2 on their Switch 2 on launch day. I feel like that's a better summer game later in the summer or something like that. So the only Ubisoft game I'm confident in is Assassin's Creed Mirage, and then Shadows coming later. But maybe you see like a Mario Rabbids collection or something. But even that, once again, I think you save that for maybe even the following year. You want to get some distance between you and Sparks of Hope before you try to resell us the Mario Rabbids games. Very Ubisoft in that way. It's not currently announced, but I do think Far Cry 7 is probably coming out this year, as well as there is the rumored AC Black Flag remake. Could we see Black Flag and Far Cry 7 day and date on Switch 2? I think so. I think those will come day and date, but that's later in the year. Just two more here. One I think is definitely happening is Elden Ring Complete Edition. I think this one's important to get out now, as soon as possible, before Elden Ring Night Rain, because I do think Night Rain, being a multiplayer-focused game, will pop up on the Switch 2. We don't have a release date for that right now. I'm guessing it'll be like August or September. That's around the time that Armored Core came out. Maybe it'll be a little bit earlier than that, but I think you want to get base Elden Ring with Shadow of the Erdtree on the Switch 2 very early on, so that way you can sell Night Rain at the same time. You know, you can get that one out as well. Since it is such a multiplayer focused game, you don't want to have a late port of that. That'd be a bad move optically. So I think for launch, an Elden Ring Complete Edition just makes a lot of sense. I do worry that Elden Ring is so big that it might cannibalize a lot of these other games, right? But not really. I mean, we're not talking about any major open world games here. I guess for AC Mirage, but really, how much is that going to sell to begin with on Switch 2? I think Elden Ring, that's going to be like really your premier third-party game. You're going to have Doom, Sea of Thieves. Like, these are all very exciting things. Resident Evil 4 Remake. But Elden Ring Complete Edition on the Switch 2, I feel like that's a good pick. I feel like that just, people are going to be excited to play that on their Switch 2. I'm really, really excited to see how that game will run on the platform. And then finally, I think we will get a Call of Duty game. And I think that game is Black Ops 6. I know a lot of people will say, oh, they're going to wait until they're going to wait until Black Ops 7 or whatever the next game is that's coming out this year. I think it's rumored to be a direct continuation of 6, but also like a sequel to Black Ops 2. It's weird. Point is, I know a lot of people think they'll wait until the holiday and just have that, but the issue with that is the rumor is that this Call of Duty that's coming out this November or October, it's supposedly going to be more like a DLC for Black Ops 6, which released last year. This is the exact same thing they did with Modern Warfare 2 2022 into Modern Warfare 3 2023, where Modern Warfare 3 2023 was basically just a DLC. It was a glorified DLC. It had a really quickly thrown together campaign, but it had all of the maps from Modern Warfare 2 in there. All of the guns that were in Modern Warfare 2 2022 carried over to the following game. If they're doing the same thing this year, I think it's very, very important to put Black Ops 6 on the Switch 2, because let's be real, these games have certainly blended more and more together over time. If you're going to have Black Ops 7 on Switch 2, and it's going to have all of the guns from Black Ops 6 in it, why would you not sell Black Ops 6 again? Just, pure corporate speak here. If all that stuff is already going to be working on the Switch 2, it's already going to be running on the Switch 2, and you can get 6 months of sales out of it, I think it's worth it to do, right? So you put Black Ops 6 there at launch, and then, 5-6 months later, you're looking at, say, another Call of Duty game on Switch, but I still think it'd be worth it, and they'll make a lot of money on a launch day Call of Duty. For the first time since the Wii U, we'll see a Call of Duty game on a Nintendo platform, but I do think that it's going to do very, very well. And I guess if Black Ops 6 isn't there, then sure, we'll definitely get Black Ops 7 later in the year. So point is, we're getting Call of Duty this year. I do think there's a chance we get both, especially because Warzone, I think you want to have Warzone there early on too, free-to-play game. So yeah, Call of Duty, I think we see at launch. I guess even if it is just Warzone, I mean, maybe it could just be Warzone. Black Ops 6 never comes over, but then you still already have Warzone there, so you're making a lot of money early on. I guess I could see that. And I didn't have these written down, but I guess a few more we can run off. Would they do last year's Madden and Just Dance and FIFA, or I guess FC, EA Sports FC? Maybe, but since the Switch 2 is launching in like late spring, even early summer maybe, Madden normally comes out in like August, EA Sports FC and NBA, these come out in September. I think you just wait. You just hold on to that first wave of sports games, because we didn't see, like, FIFA 16 wasn't on Switch. We just had to wait until the holiday period. So I think they'll do a similar thing here. But let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. What do you think of my predictions for the Switch 2 launch lineup, and what games do you think we will see for the Nintendo Switch 2 when it releases? I guess you can also throw in when you actually think it's releasing in the comments down below. I'm leaning towards that late May slot, May 22nd, maybe May 29th. But honestly, June also is perfectly, lined up and ready. But I think you want to get it out before Summer Games Fest and all these other announcements start happening. I think it's a really smart choice to get it out in May. So let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Of course, subscribe here for more Switch 2 discussions, theories, topics, all that fun stuff, prediction videos. And of course, you can follow me on Twitter at BoTalksGames. Check out my other channel at It's Amiibo. I streamed a bunch yesterday. I streamed the Xbox Developer Direct, so that is up as a VOD on the channel, as well as the first couple of chapters of Ninja Gaiden 2 Black, which actually, now that I'm thinking about it, I don't have a single Koei Tecmo game on this list. Maybe Ninja Gaiden 2 Black is there to get you ready for Ninja Gaiden 4 later in the year, which I do think will also be a Switch 2 game, and Ninja Gaiden 2 Black doesn't really rub the toes of any of the other games I listed today. So maybe you see that Ninja Gaiden 2 remake on the Switch 2 on launch. But until next time, folks, peace!